Welcome to Staying Connected, a podcast where I talk to other people about their stories with VEDS or Vascular Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Staying Connected. This is your host, Katie, and before we get into the show, I want to remind you that the views, information, and opinions in these podcasts are those of the individuals involved and do not represent the opinions of the Marfan Foundation. The Marfan Foundation is not responsible for and does not verify for accuracy any of the information contained in them, nor does the information constitute medical or other professional advice or services. This show is not produced by or affiliated with the Marfan Foundation or the VEDS movement. I hope you listened to and enjoyed our last episode featuring Dr. Melissa Russo, a high-risk obstetrician, geneticist, and researcher in our community. Today, I'm excited to share an interview with Lise Voje-Johanson, who lives in Norway. I am so thankful to Lisa for sharing her daughter's story with VEDS on the podcast all the way from Norway, and for the opportunity to learn a little more about the medical system there. So let's go ahead and go to the interview. Hey Lisa, I'm so excited to talk to you about your story and your daughter's story with VEDS. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Katie, for having me.
So, where are you located?
We live in Norway, southern part of Norway.
So you have a daughter, her name is Karna?
Karna, yes.
And how old is she?
She's 10. She'll be 11 in October.
And when was she diagnosed with VEDS?
It was 2 years ago now.
And how did you come across that diagnosis?
Well, her father had been sick earlier that summer. He had a rupture of an artery, and then they took an MRI on him and saw that he had multiple dissections in his stomach area. And then he called like in July that year and told us that he had been diagnosed, and that the doctor told him that it was some chance that Karna had inherited it. So my husband is a GP, and we sent some blood samples and got referred to genetic counseling, like almost right away.
What did they tell you about it?
They didn't want to test her because she was under 16, so they wanted to wait until she was over 16 and could decide for herself if she wanted to know or not. But I thought it was important to know now, straight away, if she had it or not.
So then your husband ordered the blood work for it and just kind of went around.
Yeah, we didn't tell the genetic counselor that we had sent it.
That's really great that you had that avenue to use.
Yes. Okay. So after about 6 weeks, we actually thought the blood samples had been stopped by the counselor, but then he got the answers that she had the diagnosis.
And how did that feel when you got that diagnosis?
That was hard. Yes, I was devastated.
How did you get through that?
Well, between the time that we sent in the samples and the answer came, we did a lot of talking about how we wanted her life to be if she got diagnosed. So I was a bit prepared because I was pretty sure she had it. So we were determined to make her life as normal as possible and focus on every day, and yeah.
Does she look a lot like him, or what are outward signs that she has VEDS?
Yes, she looks just like him, like all the facial appearances, that like large eyes and thin nose and thin and like receding gums, translucent skin. She had some bruising, and she has always slept with her eyes open.
Did you find that odd when she was little?
Yeah, but I didn't think so much about it because her dad did it too.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's one I hear so often, like that so many people sleep with their eyes open with VEDS.
yeah.
Yeah. Did she have all the translucent skin like when she was born, too?
I didn't think so much about it, so I'm not sure if she had it then, but she has it now. And she had some stretch marks when she was just like 6 months. And I remember I thought that was strange and asked the doctor why she had stretch marks, but
Yeah.
they didn't know. They thought it was strange too.
And then they didn't know what to do with that.
No.
Yeah.
She broke her elbow when she was just like 3 years old. She just had a small fall, and then the whole elbow broke.
Ouch.
Yeah.
So she would get it's like injuries from small things.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about her skin? Like, does her skin tear really easily? I know for me, like, I've gotten a wound that definitely needed stitches from a couch before, from bumping into a couch. Does she
Yeah,
get
she
that?
has stitches all over. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big thing when I was a kid, and there was never really an answer for it until I got diagnosed with VEDS, and it was all of a sudden this like light bulb
Yeah.
went off for me.
I remember I thought it was kind of funny because I have two boys and
Hmm.
two girls, and Karna was the only one. She had more stitches and blue marks than all of the other kids.
And she wasn't really roughhousing that much.
No.
It's so funny how that happens. It's like I always thought I was really hard on my body, but really everything else is just hard on my body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes the perspective when you have an answer.
Yeah.
And was the pregnancy with her different than with your others?
Yes, I had to go to the hospital when I was only 23 weeks and had to stay on bed rest at the hospital. And then
Oh,
she was born premature, 7 weeks premature.
did the membranes rupture? Is that what?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that a lot too, with other moms who have kids with VEDS that don't have VEDS themselves, is the membranes sometimes rupture early. So does she know that she has VEDS?
Yes, she knows she has beds, but not what it's all about yet.
Okay. And I mean, she's still young. Hopefully she hasn't had any major events.
No, no major events. She was a lot sick when she was a baby. We went in and out of the hospital until they finally found out that she was constipated. So they put her on laxatives, but it didn't help so much. So they had to do it in the hospital.
What were her symptoms that led her to the ER?
She was always crying as a baby, couldn't stop crying. And then after a while, she started to vomit
Hmm.
a lot. And we went into the hospital and it took an ultrasound and found out that she was constipated up high in her intestines. So they thought that might have been the problems the whole time.
Hmm. I think that there's a lot of GI issues in kids with VEDS, and I know that's something that I've had problems with my whole life too.
Yeah.
How do you plan to approach, or do you have a plan yet on how to approach deeper conversations with her about VEDS when she gets older?
Yeah. I think I will do it like spread out.
Hmm.
We'll wait now until she gets in her teens and then give her some more information then. And then as she gets older, more and more. So
Does she like playing any sports or anything, or is she pretty much out of those kinds of activities?
she doesn't like to play sports, but she does all the same things that her friends do at school.
Hmm.
The only thing I don't want to do is play like football or basketball. But
Yeah. So, do you know anybody else in Norway with VEDS, or what is it like living there with VEDS?
I have some phone contact with another mom, but her daughter is grown up.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think that Karna was the first child in Norway diagnosed with VEDS. And there's only 21 people here in Norway with the diagnosis.
That's a small number.
Yeah.
It's a very small number. Do you think that awareness there is growing, or is it still?
No, not at all. No.
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 Well, hopefully this podcast will help that a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So if there was somebody else who had a child who was just diagnosed, now that it's been about 2 years since her diagnosis, what kind of advice would you give them for getting through that and, just living with this knowledge?
Well, first of all, I'll say that to have focus on everyday life and try to make your child's life as normal as possible and obtain knowledge from reliable sources and make contact with others in the community or other parents with children with the diagnosis.
Yeah, and that's really what's helped you. Too.
Yes, I found the American group. I think you found it for me or invited me in. Yes, I'm so grateful to being a part of that.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that you reached out and that I was able to get you in that group. So anybody who's listening, if you are feeling very alone in this diagnosis and you have a kid with VEDS or you have VEDS yourself and you don't have a community of people, reach out to me through this podcast on my website, and I will do my best to get you connected. There's a really great community out here. I think is there several hundred people now in that group, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So you've been able to make connections then, not only in the very small community of people in Norway, but worldwide.
Yes.
What does that feel like? Like when you first joined the community, what did that feel like for you?
I thought it was so good to have other to talk to about her diagnosis and like you with the diagnosis yourself and how it is for you to live with the diagnosis. And yeah, feel I can ask all kind of questions if I'm wondering. Yeah.
And I want to go back to, so I know that you had a challenge getting her diagnosed in Norway. How else has medical care been there for her? Does she have a team of specialists, or is that medical system a little different?
Yeah, it's a little different, but because we got her tested, they had to start a team for her because it's like by law you have to provide some care. So she goes into ultrasound once a year in Oslo, the main capital, where the big hospitals are. And that's basically it. And
does she do pretty well with those? Like, does she know why?
Yeah, she knows why.
Okay.
It goes well.
Well, that's good. So ultrasound's pretty non-invasive and not scary like a MRI machine.
Yeah, but when she gets older, they will do MRIs.
So tell me more about the medical system there.
Yeah, so here in Norway, it's free, all medical care for children under 18. We don't have to pay if she has to go to the hospital or to GP or physiotherapy or like it's all for free. And if she gets sick, I can go on sick leave and get paid to take care of her. And for older people over 18, you just have to pay about $200. And then when you pay that, you get something we call free card. Then for the rest of the year, you get everything free.
Wow, that is so different than here.
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it like, is it good?
Yeah.
I don't know how else to ask that question.
I guess it's like your medical care that you because you have to have insurance, don't you? Yeah.
But there's like so many different insurance plans and grades of insurance and costs that I think there's a big disparity in
Yeah.
our healthcare system.
Here you get to the best hospitals, or we actually have like you can choose which hospital you want to go in around all of Norway.
And there's a lot of good hospitals to choose from.
Yeah, they're all the same, like good.
That's so different for me to
Yeah.
think about that. Yeah, that's so different. That's
Yeah.
great though. So her medical care is really covered right now for another 8 years for free.
Yeah, and then after that, she only has to pay $200, and then when she has paid that, the rest of the year is free.
That's wonderful. If there was something, I know the medical system there is different in Norway, and it was a bit of a challenge getting her diagnosed. And you've also mentioned that, there's only 21 or so people in Norway who have the diagnosis. If there was something that you would want medical professionals to know about what it's like living with this or living with a child who has this, what would that be?
Just for the medical professions here in Norway to acquire more knowledge about the disease. So we don't have all the things that you have, like medical bracelets and stuff, but we have something on the internet, like your medical journal on the internet. So in case of emergencies, the medical professions can look it up.
Yeah.
So in Karna, she says that she has VEDS, but I don't think anyone knows what VEDS is.
Yeah.
Um,
So just more general knowledge.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this podcast will help do that and spread some awareness there. I really want to know more about how you coped emotionally with the diagnosis. Like, I think it's really good for people to hear that if you're willing to share in more detail about what that experience was like.
Yes. I think I was devastated for the first year. I actually couldn't speak to anyone about her diagnosis without starting to cry. But as time goes on, you learn to live with it and try to think positive. And like I said, take a day at a time and focus on everyday normal life.
And that really helped you. Did you have somebody to talk to, like close friends or anything, or did you really hold it like very close?
No, I had my husband, and that was good because, like I said, he's a GP and he knows about medical stuff, and yeah, that's about it. and then I could reach out to the VEDS community on Facebook that you're a part of.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and Karna's story on the podcast. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
If there's one last thought for the listeners that you have, is there any one last parting thought that you have?
I just think it's so important to spread the awareness. And I'm so grateful that you make these podcasts and your YouTube videos, and I think that's great.
I really appreciate that. I definitely started those because I didn't want other people to go through this alone, and I wanted to raise the awareness. So it feels I'm really grateful that these have been helpful for you all the way in Norway. That's just like such an incredible feeling for me to know that they've been impactful, and I really appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
And by sharing your story, you're helping to raise the awareness too. And that's really
Hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you everyone for listening in today, and a huge thanks again to Lise for sharing her and her daughter's story on the podcast. I hope you enjoy this show. I hope you find it informative or helpful. This podcast and all of you are just really close to my heart, and it would mean so much to me if you shared the show far and wide to help us raise awareness of VEDS internationally. That is such a cool thing to have this podcast be impactful internationally. So thank you for that. Be sure to subscribe to the show and stay tuned for the next episode on November 20th. We will be talking to Jonathan Kyle, a man with VEDS living in St. Petersburg, Florida. Thanks so much again, and I will see you soon.